Okay, we have the green bars, we have the live counter sticking up, so we should now be live, which of course means welcome back to the Storytime Network, where we yap over some Shadow of War.
Hello, we're doing a collaborative stream after 10,000 years. Wonderful. But also terrifying.
Finally, the schedules align.
Now, we were discussing ports beforehand.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like the thing about poorly optimized PC ports, and we were discussing this in respect to Nier Automata specifically, is that PC ports tend to be very hit or miss
Mm.
for some companies, and it depends in large part on general experience of the company.
Mm.
And the thing is about PC ports that a lot of people don't get is that dude, a bad PC port can still work.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's a good PC port. Like the Nier Automata port is famously not great, but that's more in terms of stuff like visuals and not even visuals, just like optimization,
Mm.
like how well it runs more than anything else. If you just want to like play it on whatever settings your computer is willing to handle, it's serviceable.
Yeah.
Truly bad PC ports are the ones like the original Dark Souls PC, which like I take it, Mill, you're not one of those frame rate Andes.
No, not at all.
Something like the Dark Souls PC port, you wouldn't have to be a frame rate Andy to be irritated by it. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where it would just literally like it was so bad that people might not even like would get motion sickness from playing it,
Yeah.
even if they don't normally get motion sickness, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, PC ports are very much a hit or miss affair. And Nier Automata's PC port in particular, if you're trying to play it on like super max settings and like with the most good looking graphics, you're not gonna get that with a vanilla experience.
Yeah.
There is, however, a very comprehensive modding suite. There's a suite of mods that basically turn it into. It's the same thing with Dark Souls 1, right? Like, ESFix was the only way to play.
Hmm.
ESFix, of course, as the name suggests, being the Dark Souls mod that basically did the devs' job for them. Now,
Mm.
I will say, FromSoft has gotten much better at it after the disaster that was Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
Every subsequent port has been great, and then you've got stuff like Elden Ring, which are basically almost primarily PC games that work excellently.
Hmm.
So it's not an unsolvable problem. It's just a problem to a certain extent. Because
I
these
mean,
problems can't
yeah.
really.
I mean, I haven't touched the near settings, and it still looks fucking fine to me.
Yeah, it's if you're not like. It's just like if you are not. It's like super tasters. You know how like there's some people are super tasters.
Yeah.
They can just like taste the minute flavor profile differences.
Hmm.
Like they're the kinds of people for whom the term flavor profile was invented.
Yeah.
Those people exist for the PC stuff. People who can see the frames individually, people who can in general, have much higher standards.
So I'm a basic bitch.
No, in the same way that you can enjoy good food without being a super taster. You can enjoy a good game without being a frame rate Andrew. Right? People who are like, but I can see that the textures are like slightly off center here.
Yeah.
Things like that. You don't need that to play the game,
Hmm.
fundamentally. But some people do. I wouldn't say their way of enjoying the game is any less valid or more valid. It's just like sort of that's how it be.
I mean, I suppose it depends for me. Like, is it a case of they are naturally able to do this, or is it something they have trained themselves to do this by, forcing
It's a
themselves to have
mix.
such high standards?
It's a mix, and
Mm.
it's not necessarily a matter of forcing. If you've just grown up uh, observing that sort of thing naturally, like this is much more prevalent in people who grew up as PC gamers as opposed to people who like primarily played games on console and then moved to PC later.
Hi.
Yes, I am also in that boat, but I'm a bit strange in that I can't see the frames, but I like to think I can.
Mm.
Though to be fair, in some extreme cases I can in fact see the frames, but that's only again in cases where there's like screen tearing.
Yeah.
Very sensitive to screen tearing,
Hmm.
which is the thing where exactly as the name suggests, what happens if you turn VSync off for a lot of games. Uh, yeah, I understand those people. It's they're not necessarily doing it to be annoying. If you are just naturally more sensitive, and if you grew up in that sort of sphere, it's just not something you can really help.
Hmm.
So it's nothing to necessarily rag on people for. Like they're not being intentionally elitist a lot of the time. Now there are some people who
Yeah.
absolutely make it their entire personality.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
people point and laugh. Yes, point and
Yeah.
laugh at those people. But a lot of people, it's just a matter of they just feel uncomfortable because they've grown up with a certain. They've just become accustomed to a certain level of standard, and it's just like it's hard to go from luxury to frugality, as it
Yeah.
were. But yeah. Now I have a scenario I'd like to run by you.
Okay.
So to give you some context, there was a time in my life where I had trouble dropping series for reasons of mental illness.
Yeah. I get it.
I would like hate read series that I really didn't like the direction of, but they were like uh I I was like getting into sunk cost fallacy. This particular series I did actually manage to drop it eventually, but not before I had read some truly vile stuff. And by vile I mean I think most people well, the vast there's two schools of reader. There's the pure power fantasy reader who want to just feel like they are like they want to become the character so that it makes them feel better about their own lives.
Yeah.
And then there's the more immersion-based reader, which I think both of us qualify as. In the sense that we read for immersing ourselves in a story, and a lot of the other stuff like is important to us. It might not necessarily be important to the other kind of reader, like the world building, the character development and dynamics and things like that.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And so I would say that I see a lot, especially in the like novel sphere, of readers of the aforementioned type, the our fantasy kind,
Yeah.
where like it will absolutely not like it when the character does anything like these are the people who call protagonists betas and simps.
Oh, okay.
Yes, those people. Uh, we obviously point and laugh at those people. Dum dums.
To a certain extent, yeah, we do.
Only to a certain.
Uh, the betas ones, yeah, we do. The simp ones,
Well, okay. When they mean, yeah, I can get why that's point of contention. Yeah.
look, sometimes the character is legitimately a simp.
Yes,
If they're
I
doing
can
it
definitely.
if they're doing it without basis, then yeah, I can absolutely understand pointing and laughing. But you know, sometimes like fucking what was it?
Zero.
Not even reset. No. I'm going for a much more literary example. Gimli
Oh?
with Galadriel.
Okay, yeah, he is.
That
He
boy
is
is a simp for Galadriel, okay? He
No,
just is.
I don't think you're gonna get any argument from anyone really on that front. He just really
Look,
likes the smell of her hair.
Gimli was legitimately willing to kill Éomer for Éomer saying that he didn't think Galadriel was the most beautiful woman in the world. Right after Éomer had been married, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of the.
That was the moment where I was like, okay, Gimli, dial it back a bit. Dial it back just a little bit. You're about to kill the King of Rohan for saying that Galadriel isn't the most beautiful woman in the world. Well, I don't think Éomer's ever seen Galadriel.
He hasn't, has he?
I don't think so.
Not unless she came to his wedding. Which I don't see why she would have.
Yeah. So yeah, when they're in those occasions, I think yeah we can agree with the simp calling. But yeah, when they're just like a fucking like loving boyfriend, yeah, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. So these people often seem to decide that main characters should be actual sociopaths.
Mm.
And I read a series that played right into that fantasy because built into the magic system is if you want to reach beyond a certain level of advancement, beyond a certain level of power. So the way the magic worked in that series is that it was magic was done through threads of mystical nonsense energy,
Yeah.
which I forget what it was called. It might have been
Mm.
called mana, or it might have been called something else. Honestly, I feel at this point we need to have a unified name for it. Like, I love Cradle, but you could have called Madra literally anything else, and it would have made the changed nothing.
Mm.
They've called it Bees, Horse Bees, and like Sword Bees. That one Jello Apocalypse video where you could replace the word darkness with bees in Kingdom Hearts, and nothing would change. Functionally speaking.
Yeah.
But yes, so
I mean, it might have a effect on the tone of the series just a little bit if you called it Bees instead of the fancy schmancy name that Nomura gave it.
it's literally he called it Light and Darkness.
Fancy schmancy name that Nomura gave it.
Well, okay. If those are our standards for Fancy Smancy. But like, we need to just call it. We just need to all decide. There needs to be like a convention, like that just decides. Okay, we're all just gonna call it like mana or something, unless there's a culturally or like plot relevant reason not to call it that.
The issue there is that whoever decides that first will try and copyright it and monetize it.
Yeah, that would lead to Disney being even richer because they would win that case even if they weren't the first to come up with it.
Because that's the way people are, and
Well, no, if it's something like mana, I don't think you can literally. I don't think you can copyright the concept of mana. If you could, it would have been tried by like one of the bigger names.
people will still try, and it'll be a whole thing.
I think okay, but yes, go on. The other reason.
Ooh, I nearly fell in lava.
It's fine. It's good for your skin.
There's a certain element of creativity there that if everyone calls it mana, then dickhead McGee's will just go, oh, look at everyone being so uncreative that they can't think of a fucking word to use for their energy system.
I get tired of like talking about them sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
They are very,
Like,
they are very tiring populace. Yes.
No, not them. Not well, yes, them too, but just the general like. I get tired of the whole. So many keeping track of the
Yeah.
myriad different energy systems sometimes.
It's fair. But at the end of the day, I'm just used to keeping track of a lot of stuff, considering the amount of anime I watch means that fucking I have to remember and learn so many fucking names.
That's fair.
That it's just sort of like typical for me to do at the moment.
That's why I don't remember names. I just remember their role in this general role in the story.
I start to get confused after a while if I don't remember names.
That's fair. We're on very different parts of the spectrum.
Mm.
I should note I am not a medical professional, so I am not exactly the qualified to legally diagnose someone.
I'm like, what would I say? Definitely over 50% sure that I am autistic. In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's just like figuring out if it's that or other cocktails of mental illnesses that can look like that at a glance.
I mean, from what I've heard, ADHD can somewhat mask the
Yes.
autism.
Yes.
So, that doesn't help, because I'm like 95% sure I have ADHD.
Oh, you definitely have ADHD.
Yeah.
I feel qualified to diagnose that because I've recently realized. So I don't know if I've told you this. My dad grew up in the country. Uh, in
Which
like
country?
in the old country. In the countryside, like rural communities.
I know, I was just being a shit.
Yes. Uh, and people didn't have a lot to do back in the day, so they had a lot of kids. So my dad is one of 8
Mm.
uh, siblings, and I've realized, huh, of the 8 siblings, I'm pretty sure 5 of them have ADHD, including my father. One of them is on the autism spectrum. I'm kind
Yeah,
of just like,
well, that shit be genetic.
huh, I was kind of cooked from the get-go, huh?
Yeah.
So, plus my mom's side of the family has a history of. So my dad's side has the developmental stuff, and my mom's side of the family has everything else: the neuroticism, the anxiety, depression,
Mm.
all that. So little fetus, embryonic Fuzzy was cooked from day minus
Mm.
360. So, you know,
Would it have been better, you think, to that guy
I have
just...
not been born, yes.
I was gonna go a different route, but then I got distracted by a guy, or an orc just literally killing itself in front of me. It
I mean,
literally
they
just
come
jumped
back,
off.
but I'd have been doing that just to work with your head.
But yeah, would it have been better to be born in an era where, awareness of mental health wasn't quite so high?
No, because we'd probably be dead.
Mm.
But, like, miserably. Like, not happily dead. Like, miserably dead.
Mm.
It's like how, there was probably... First of all, the myth of changelings probably originated from the autism spectrum.
Yep.
And, second of all, if you look at the changeling myths and what people did to quote-unquote changelings, you'll realize, oh! Oh, so it's not that they didn't exist, it's that they were literally abused to death in their childhood.
To be fair, I wasn't going quite as far back as dropping the kid in the well.
My brother in Christ, I'm talking about as recently as the 90s.
Okay, I've walked into that one. I forgot how shit humanity is.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of not a great situation. Because, like I said, Canada had residential schools until 1996,
Mm.
which are literally concentration camps for First Nations children.
Mm.
To call them anything less than that is, like, disrespectful. Uh, oh,
You have to understand that I am a white, male, British, lower middle class guy, or had at least had a lower middle class upbringing. It's easy for me to forget these things. I need reminding sometimes.
uh, something potato famine, something parasite.
There's no need to remind me about the potato famine.
Sounds a bit closer to home, huh?
On that front, history student, don't need reminding. Damn, got the wrong one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, that one's slightly less eloquent than the rest.
So yeah, getting back onto a slightly cheerier topic of horrifically sociopathic protagonists. The magic system literally had it built in that so it worked on a system of threads, right? I don't know if it called the magic mana. Apparently, the barrier you have to break to go past like 33 threads, I think, which 33 is a significant number in a lot of cultures, so that's not as arbitrary. The barrier you have to break to get past 33 threads is it literally turns you into a sociopath. It's built into the magic system.
Okay. Like, just like takes away like what? Your empathy, your emotions, what?
Yes, your empathy mostly, but it's implied that it also mutes and dulls your emotions. So like, it features a protagonist that literally did genocide casually.
Great.
With, like no
Wonderful.
reason. So, but like, well, okay, he did genocide because of a war, but again, it was not. It's never justified, you know. So he did do a genocide, but he has a very strict reasoning for why he does things, right? Like, he's sociopathic, but not like chaotic evil.
Yeah.
Like neutral evil, aka the most evil. Neutral evil is the most evil, right? The most American of the evil.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most American of the evils. I mean, it's like...
Because chaotic evil, the implication is that with chaotic evil, they're animals. Essentially. It's like...
It's more sort of baked into their natures, yeah.
Yes, it's baked into their nature to the point that it's like... They can't really... It's not even a matter of they can't control it, it's just a matter of, like, to consider them evil is to sort of undermine the very concept of morality, because morality requires intent. Right? It's...
Yeah.
But, anyway, he was more neutral evil, but with logic. Like, he didn't have any code or anything that he stuck to, but he had logic. Now, here is the scenario. This is one that I find very interesting, because while it is unquestionably evil, it's somewhat interesting because it's a case of disproportionate... I don't even know if it's disproportionate retribution. It's just a case of, like, retribution in a way that I don't know. Let me describe the scenario to you, and I'll let you make your judgment. So, the main character is a minor noble. It's a very Euro fantasy.
As these things tend to be, yes.
As these things tend to be, yes. And what he does is he is in an arranged marriage, as was the style at the time, to a woman who already has a lover. So what happens is that because he is basically like, I wouldn't say arrow ace, but more that he's just more focused on the magic than he is on, like, whole romance. First of all, he's a sociopath, so he's not really the emotional thing is just not there for him,
Yeah.
and he's more focused on magic and stuff. So he actually sets out the terms very obviously that, listen, I know you don't want this marriage. I don't particularly want this marriage either. It's one of convenience. So I'm not going to like ask you to do anything. I'm also not going to like stop you from being anyone as long as you like keep it on the down low just for the sake of maintaining the facade.
Yeah.
That seems like a it's like so far it's a pretty respectable
Yeah,
way of
it's
handling it, right?
making the best of a bad situation.
Yeah. So here's what ends up happening. The boyfriend is part of an opposing faction. The wife's boyfriend.
Hmm.
And so she is so she, he goes to her, like the boyfriend,
Yeah.
goes to her and is like, uh, so we're part of opposing factions. We can like really frick him up if you seduce him. You see where this is going?
You know how I said I had trouble telling people apart when I didn't have names?
Bob is the main character sociopath.
Yeah.
Alice is the arranged marriage wife, and Gregory is the boyfriend. Does that make it easier? Mainly because I don't remember their names.
Right. So just
So
right.
Bob tells
you
Alice,
so you've got the sociopath who we're calling Bob.
yes,
Arranged marriage to Ellis.
Alice, whatever.
Alice, whatever.
Call her.
Yeah.
Bob and
Alice.
Alice.
Who is
And then
Graham?
Greg is the
Greg.
Huh?
Greg is Alice's boyfriend.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Greg goes to Alice and is like, "Hey, I know he said he's not going to touch you unless you consent to it, and he doesn't care if you do or not, and he doesn't care if you keep a lover on the down low. What if you used your body to like lure him into our faction?"
Right. Because they're on opposing sides.
Yes. And so she does so.
Right.
His thought is, oh well, I guess she came around and decided to make the whole marriage thing work. So he goes along with it, and then when he realizes he's being duped, then he mind controls Greg, and then Bob mind controls Greg into assassinating the king.
Right. What does Greg do in the what does Bob do in the aftermath of the king's death?
Oh, it did sociopath stuff.
Took over?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What happened to Greg?
Dead.
Dead. What happened to Alice?
Fine.
Fine.
Raising was pregnant with Greg's child. Now raising baby. You didn't even. So, like, what do you make of this situation?
I mean, clearly there's, a level of, as you said, sociopathic, psychopathic, whatever you want to call it, behavior. Because that is very much, disproportionate retribution. I mean,
Does it count as retribution? Like, if it had been less severe, would he have had cause to like do something?
I mean, what Greg did is kind of dickish.
There's also the whole intercourse under like false pretenses. Not really okay, even if you do it to a dude, right?
Yeah.
I think we're agreed on that.
Well, I don't think we should be. I don't think either of us are saying that what Greg did is fine or anything, because it's not.
Is Alice also a victim in this? I think she is. Mostly because she didn't decide to do the thing, but she did still end up doing the thing. Like, she was the one who made the call to, like, I don't know, it's...
For me, it always is dependent on, was Alice eager to take part in the scheme, or was she, like, talked / forced?
She was reluctant, but she was reluctant, but she did still eventually do it.
Hmm.
And she didn't necessarily, like...
In what manner did Greg convince her?
Purely talking. No threats, nothing.
Well, like, what was the talking like? Because obviously, we...
Conspiratorial, not like, gotta do this. More like, it would be sick if you did.
Right. Was there a level of manipulation involved?
I don't remember well enough, but I have to assume so.
Because at that point, I am tended to come down on the side of Alice is somewhat a victim too.
Yeah, that's where I am at as well.
And especially, no, not a but especially in a society like
paint by numbers feudal Europe.
Yeah. Almost certainly, there's not a lot of choice, I guess, is the word I want to use.
Oh, that's fair.
Obviously, shouldn't have done it, but yeah, if there had been, retribution done to Alice, anything past that there would obviously be a certain point, and it would probably be quite, on the minor side where it got past, justifiable retribution to disproportionate.
I will say, the results of Greg's endgame was eventually Bob's death.
Did Bob know
that
this?
Makes the whole... He figured it out. That makes the whole murdering Greg thing...
what sort of changes the situation for me is that Bob didn't just kill Greg. Like,
there's the mind control bit.
There was the mind control bit, and it, was, to the point of Bob benefiting from it. There is absolutely some ickiness there.
Play devil's advocate. Use every part of the buffalo.
Every part of the what? Sorry.
Every part of the buffalo.
Right.
Avoid wastefulness and all that. If you're gonna murder someone anyway, you might as well mind control them to assassinate the king.
Was the king a bad dude?
I don't remember enough, but it was a royal, so the answer is yes. It was very much one of those series where there were no good guys.
Right.
I did thankfully manage to drop it. But
yeah.
It took a while.
Then, at that point, there's a level of, everything's gonna seem fucking justifiable.
Yes, if everyone's evil, then...
Yeah. If everyone's evil, then there's, nothing bad. I mean...
I will say the only saving
this...
grace of this situation is that he didn't do anything to Alice.
Yeah.
He just, started to ignore her completely.
Mm-hmm.
Which, honestly, fair.
Yeah. I mean, on a... similar kind of note, how do you feel about, Yeah, no, you've read a lot of Reincarnated as a Slime, haven't you?
Oh, yes. I've read the entire series, yes.
Season 3 just
Unless
finished.
The light novels had a... Huh?
Season 3 just finished, and we have got to the end of the festival. If you're interested.
Like the tournament arc?
Yeah, with the
yes,
hero.
Yes. Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it, but when
Slime is like a variant of the Sarazanmai problem with you, isn't it? Where you disliked it for a long time and then you stuck with it because you believed us. And then...
I stuck with it because because
not by choice.
Well, no. The first OP had fucking Rimuru fighting Hinata, and that looked cool as shit.
Yeah, that didn't happen until...
And then that didn't happen until early Season 2.
Yeah, I think they were planning to get there, they just, underestimated how long it would take.
Anyway, so how do you feel about Rimuru doing what he did to become a demon lord, killing all those soldiers?
Look, in wartime, if you eat people, that's fine. If during a war you eat, especially because those soldiers were coming with the intent of genocide.
Yeah.
If you are coming in with the intent of genocide and the other party takes no prisoners, what did you expect? If you were going to take no prisoners, and suddenly the other party decides not to take prisoners on that account, you are shocked Pikachu's face, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just making the point because I know the
Was it divisive?
The fucking A&N reviewer had a big problem with it.
Okay, that seems...
But
you can understand my problem, right? Like, this isn't not...
Yeah, no. I agree with you. I am totally, this was wartime. These people came to...
literal total war.
These people came to... They were all soldiers as well. It's not like there were civilians.
They were all soldiers who came for genocide.
Yeah.
Not only did they come for genocide, they succeeded! If not for, Rimuru pulling some BS out of his ass...
No. As I said, I am totally on board with you on this one. I absolutely do not think. To be fair,
indignant on the.
this is a guy who I've had problems with his opinions before.
Well,
They are
it sounds like it.
strange, and yeah, I just stopped reading the slime reviews now.
Okay. Give me some more. Give me some more weirdness from this guy.
Right, I'm gonna have to pause because I know
Find some.
I've mentioned him in the Discord before, so I've just gotta go find where I fucking mentioned him. Dur, 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 dur. So, for example, I watched a series, or I watched the premiere for a series that I can't remember the full name of, but it was something like Unwanted Undead.
Okay.
This guy ranked Unwanted Undead, which was generic, boring ass fucking reincarnation fantasy.
Of course.
Like, it's literally where like an adventurer is killed and comes back as a skeleton.
That describes literally dozens of series that I've read. Not just series that I have heard of. Series I've literally read the first few chapters of like at least 10
Yeah.
of those.
No. And this is something I'm coming to realize, and we'll almost certainly be talking about when we do the premiere stream in about a week. Not about a week, in a week. So many of these fucking like fantasy and isekai stories now, they're just the same premise with little bits changed. There's no originality to these fucking like generic ass shit media things. Like,
Are you starting to understand why I raged against Wise Man's Grandchild so much?
no, I agreed with you on that one. Well, sort of.
Not until they kissed in episode 11. You kept it alive for 11 episodes.
Yeah, again, we did a lot wrong in that first season of FMK.
Ah. I'm glad that history has vindicated me, at least in some respects.
You've got to understand, Fuzzy. That our first season of FMK was what, spring 2019.
Oh, we were so young.
I'd only been watching fucking seasonal anime for 2 seasons by then.
No, weren't you following along with TFS?
Not really. I watched their streams. I didn't actually watch the anime. Like, I watched like a few series here and there. I watched Hinamatsuri. I watched Devilman Crybaby, which I should not have done, because that sucks. And I will, take no argument on that front.
I kind of regret watching Hinamatsuri.
Hmm.
Because I went on to read the manga.
What was your issue with the manga?
And it just got stale. Certain jokes
No, that's fair. That is fair. I've also read the Hinamatsuri manga, and you want to know something? I skipped a volume. I didn't realize that.
Probably missed nothing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I had skipped a volume until I was looking at my bookshelf, and I was like, hang on a minute.
Like the post-time skip.
Like a good, I would say, year or two after buying the fucking volumes, at least. And just going, hang on a minute. I've missed a volume. How did I not notice that? Like, I don't think it's a bad series by any stretch of the imagination, and I enjoy what it does, but yeah, it's doing a lot of samey things at the end of the day.
What ended up happening is that pre-time skip had a lot of like good character work in addition to the comedy that I really enjoyed, and post-time skip really just threw all that away.
Yeah.
not even full threw it away in the sense of made it like did it bad, more that it just didn't care at all about it and just like favored the like when there was room for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There was room for it
Yeah.
and they just didn't care. Like there's a lot of stuff that is not the biggest fan of it post time skip.
Mm.
Also when Hina became a teenager, it was a lot. Her actions were a lot less endearing and more like
Mm-hmm.
she was really giving me the ick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just didn't like it.
Yeah. Here's
Anyway, go on.
Here's another shit take from this guy.
Okay.
From the spring 2023 season, he gave a series called Kamikatsu, which, quite literally, there is at least, I think, 3 occasions of sexual assault on the male main character. Gave that 4 stars, and a show called Yamada-kun 2 stars.
That's criminal.
Mm.
Yeah, this guy just has bad taste.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the guy doing the fucking slime review, so yeah, I've just sort of given up on them now.
Yeah, one moment. Yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
I think we'd sort of come to the end of that conversation, so I wasn't sure
Yes.
where we were gonna go.
So, yes, but with the whole sociopathic protagonist thing, people are always, like, wanting the protagonist to do the most mathematically optimal thing in every scenario, as
Yeah.
if that's what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Well, it's
also,
there's also a certain amount of lacking understanding of dramatic irony.
dramatic irony, tension, like how to write a good scene, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Right? Like people don't read critically.
Yeah, but no, the
I
amount
think-
the amount of people who are like fucking oh, why didn't he do this when, you know, this info exists? And it's like, the character doesn't know that information. That's the point. You as the reader knows it, but, you know, that information has never been revealed to the main character. You stupid motherfucker.
Even in the cases where the character knows the information, they don't necessarily remember in a
Yeah.
high stress situation. Right? Like people are like, character must remain like rational, cool-headed, and have an encyclopedic memory 24/7
Yeah.
all times. And that's just not what people do.
Yeah.
That's just not how the human brain works.
Mm-hmm.
My dog is being a dog. Yeah.
Well, I'd be, you know, a little confused if she was being like a cat.
There are some very cat-like dogs and dog-like cats, though.
No, there absolutely are. There absolutely are.
Often a product of them being raised together.
Yeah.
But yeah, So, I think you are having... So, you know this realization you've had of everything is just the same with the serial numbers filed off?
Not everything, but, you know, these...
You know what I mean, the vast
Yeah.
majority of things.
Not even the mass majority of things, just this one fucking genre, like fucking isekais and fucking shitty boilerplate fucking fantasy anime that comes out every fucking season. Like, I
brother
swear to
in-
God, these concepts are things that I have, you know, read, like, a season or two ago.
So, first of all, I was already there in the year of our Lord 2019
Mm,
because I was more of a reader
mm.
than a watcher. You can get through a lot more light novels and trashy web novels than you can anime series.
Yeah.
They also come out quicker.
Mm,
I was already sort of there.
mm,
And other thing is that it's not just isekai, my brother. It's a lot of genres are like that. Just haven't realized it yet because they haven't.
yeah. Well,
Anime's
a lot of these
situation
genres,
hasn't hit.
a lot of these genres, are a lot more likely to fucking do it. Do the execution, because the point is they're using the same tropes, right?
Yes,
And as we've always said, the thing with
Tropes
tropes
are tools.
is tropes are tools, and you can either use them well or you can use them badly. The point is that the vast majority of these fucking boilerplate isekai fantasy series, whatever, are using them badly because they are using them without the, you know, forethought or, you know, and the
It's
experience
not
needed
using
to
them
use
as
them.
tropes. It's using them as like paint by numbers.
Mm.
It's just using them to fill in the blanks without doing anything else, without actually engaging with the media on a critical level.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like they're not. Like I hate to ever say this because you can never really know this for sure, but it just feels like they're not trying.
Mm.
They're kind of just churning it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure in a lot of cases that's exactly what they're doing.
It feels like they're just doing, you know, the most by the numbers thing to get attention.
That's how the market works now.
Unfortunately so.
Uh, so yes, it's essentially a lose-lose situation because the networks tend to pick up the things that are popular, and the things that are popular are just the things that have on the numbers.
Mm. Which, you know, thanks publishing industry. Really helpful.
Now let's talk about. Oh, do you know what's another kind of interesting thing? A lot of Korean web novels are in that boat, where they're very much paint by the numbers.
Mm.
Uh, in all of the worst ways. And
And
I don't even know how to properly describe how sort of generic some of these series can be. But again, it's a matter of execution.
mm,
Some of them just executed better than others.
yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. And I tend to favor the ones with good Now, don't get me wrong. There's ones that are genuinely excellent.
Mm.
But not because they're original. Because they take the tropes and they present them in a good way. Like how a decent chef can turn a can of baked beans into a proper meal.
Yeah.
A semi-decent writer can take just a can of tropes and turn it into an enjoyable series that's good for just like entertainment value, if not for like
Yeah.
thought. Not every piece of media has to be like really thought provoking. Some media, it's okay to just like it's okay to for Marvel movies to exist. As
Yeah.
there are people who would argue otherwise.
Look, not every piece of media needs to be this incredibly like thought-provoking thing. Sometimes things can just be fun.
Exactly. And this is lost on a lot of people. But leaving that aside, there's something there's an interesting description of elves. Tell me if you've heard this. They are born androgynous, and then shift into a gender to match their partner's preference.
I do not think I've heard of that one before.
So
Oh.
I've seen it in precisely 2 Korean web novels, which, if I had a nickel for every time it happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Always respect the dude. But here's an example of how an interesting concept turns bad. Korea has a lot of ingrained misogyny, writing, and culture. Like, apparently, one of the sitting major politicians was elected off of the back of the incel voting bloc.
Right?
The incels are literally a significant voting bloc in South Korea. So, that's not
Yeah, that's great to hear, yeah.
Significant enough that they swayed a major election.
Mm.
But it very clearly says, oh yes, if my partner is male, I turn into a female, and if my partner is female, I turn male.
Right?
It's just like very heteronormative.
Yeah.
Completely. And inherently, there's sort of a how do you say, there's a sort of trivialization of gender identity inherent in that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is like apparently going from non-binary or agender to to having a gender is just a matter of what genitals your partner has.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it's just, I don't know. There's something where it's an interesting enough concept, but if you think about it a little bit more, it's one of those things that's just like,
No, it definitely seems icky.
there's an element of ick to it. Certainly. Yeah, how does that strike you? That particular trope. Like, how do you think you could use it in a respectful manner? Could it be used in a respectful manner at all?
I think yes. I'm trying to think through the implications here. So
Talk it out. Talk out loud.
yeah.
Talk out loud.
So the change, like, is the change a choice or does it happen automatically?
Presumably, it happens automatically, which is another
Hmm.
awkward part of it.
I mean,
It
I
does
think
give
you
you
can, turn it into a story of positive um,
yes. Is
gender
that what I was
gender
thinking?
stuff if you know,
Gender
you
make
know,
it more gender affirming than anything else.
yeah. I mean, say the person in question has a preferred gender that they, identify as. Um, but,
Or you could reverse it, right? Like as opposed to fitting the gender to their partner's preference, they fit their they change their own gender based on their own preference.
hmm,
Like if they identify as lesbian, they become a woman who is interested in women,
hmm,
right?
yeah.
I can see it sort of working in that way.
It'd be a tricky one to do, I think. It's not something that I think is necessarily, well, it depends on what type of story he's trying to do, but there are easier ways to do what you can do with it.
Yeah, what sucks is that the stories, the two stories it's present in, obviously the have elves as love interests
Hmm.
because of course they do.
Yeah.
Uh, People do love elves for some.
Tolkien made them so fuckable is the issue.
And the funniest thing is that he intended them for them to not be banged.
Well, he did a fucking bad job of it, okay?
Oh, very much so. It's just like
All that fucking
his intention
gushing,
was.
all that gushing about how cool Legolas is. Did he really expect people not to read that and go, wow, I think I want to have sex with Legolas?
I mean,
That endurance in combat. Imagine what he could do if he was plowing me into the mattress.
I can't even dignify that with an oh my. It's like that's too much even for Decay.
Legolas would be too much for Decay, if you know what I mean.
Oh my.
I didn't mean to use the soundboard if you have it open. Yeah, it's like the problem is he made it so that elves were sort of incredibly attractive, but this actually is a good segue. Incredibly pure is its role. This is actually a segue into the next topic I was going to say. I have seen an interesting trend. Not only in writing, but also in readers' assumptions. I have found that in Western-led media, because of the increased importance of this, basically everyone's a virgin. With the possible exception of main character or certain men.
Mm-hmm.
Because ingrained misogyny,
Yeah.
and all that. And that's like, there's problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better. It's actually better when it's equitable. Even the main character's a virgin. Everyone's just a blushing virgin.
Yeah.
That's more tolerable.
Yeah.
Because that just suggests, oh, well, in this world, the culture is that wait for marriage.
Again, it depends how it's treated. It depends. How sexuality are treated in there to begin with. Because the issue with a lot of these, pure virgin women experienced sexual hounds men is that it's seen
I'm
as
really not a fan of that,
no,
bro.
no, no, of course not. You shouldn't be because it's the message it's giving off is that a man who has a lot of sex with women and always women because it's generally a
Heteronormative, yes.
heteronormative heterosexual trope. But man who has lots of sex with women, good. Woman who has lots of sex with men, bad. That's the issue there.
And also, are you concerned that man has? Are you woman concerned that man has lots of sex? Not a problem. You can fix him.
Mm.
Because as if the solution to someone who likes to sleep around, and I'm not even like saying there's anything wrong with sleeping around necessarily, but the idea that you can just meeting the right person will instantly take you from 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Or 100 to 0, as the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense to me. Yeah, I can understand in some situations where, but yes, so it's better when everyone's a virgin and sex is sort of something that happens to other people, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm just getting around that by making my main character Ace Arrow. Thank you and good night. He is entirely uninterested in anything to do with romance and sex. Or at least when it comes to him.
I have the entire. Oh, is he like Maki? Is he a little freak who likes to watch?
No, no, no. It's when I say that, it's more. It's not like when his friends talk about that. It's like, no, don't talk to me about that. It's more just a case of, no, I'm uninterested in doing any of this with me, but I'll listen to you talk about your fucking romantic troubles if I have to, sort of thing. Though he would not want to hear about the sex.
I will offer no comments because, well, he can offer comments.
What little help he can offer, he will offer. Yes, sort of thing.
Yeah. So the idea that everyone is a virgin, even when it doesn't necessarily make sense, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I often find that Western media, especially the web novels, and especially the readership, are like, well, of course, everyone is sexually experienced. Literally everyone.
Mm.
Even when it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to be so. For example, I read a very, I've been reading a very sweet little web novel, which is, it's sadly a lit RPG, but at this point in my life, I've kind of realized, oh, I'm not gonna get away from the specter of lit RPGs. They will haunt my dreams forever, because that's what all web novels are, because that's the only thing that sells.
Mm-hmm.
All Western web novels, essentially, are lit RPGs.
Mm.
Now, it's basically impossible to get something that's not. But anyway, the thing that really got me is I was reading a very, like, cute little web novel that featured 2 former child soldiers.
Right.
who were on opposite sides of the war, meeting, falling in love, doing that whole bang.
Hmm.
And so they were the hero and the demon queen.
Of course, have to have them on opposing sides after all.
Yes, yes, and be the respective leaders of the respective sides.
Hmm.
Anyway, war's over. Stuff happened. I won't spoil it in case you read it. It's a decent read, but it's a bit crunchy, so I don't know if you'd like it. Anyway, they have a tasteful fade to black
Hmm.
with Bow Chicka Wow Wow playing in the background, and I was like, oh, they're uh they are both having their first time because they were literally. But then in the comments, it was all like there was this underlying implication that they'd done this before.
Right.
Like, not necessarily with each other, but that they'd done it before. Whereas I'm like, no, they started fighting a war when they were 10 years old and were going from battlefield to battlefield the entire time.
Mm.
And they don't have any related trauma. So it's like, first of all, they were literally children for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And second, they just would not realistically not have had the time.
Hmm.
But like, to me, it reads like, oh, they were both completely inexperienced before this. But there's this undercurrent of course they were experienced. Why wouldn't they be?
Mm.
And that's something I see very, very frequently in Western media, where it's like it's the opposite of the standard of the Eastern sort of everyone must be pure, everyone must be experienced,
Hmm.
and that's just it. Just I just you see what my problem with it is.
Yeah.
It's the same as doing the opposite, right? Like if you take it to the extreme in either direction, it's not great.
Hmm.
I'm just like, how am I supposed to feel about this? Because it's one of those things where if you talk about it in the wrong way, you are going to get accused of being some sort of prude.
Mm.
Which I will admit, really, that I am probably on the more prudish side when it comes to that sort of thing. I don't necessarily. It's just a matter of preference, and it's more because I'm just so inherently repulsed by the notion that even the idea of other people doing it kind of gives me the ick.
Mm.
I'm just like, do what you want, just don't make me think about it at all. You know what I'm saying?
And yet you talk about characters having sex so often.
Well, yeah, but that's for like comedic effect. I don't actually think about them doing the deed. I
Fair
talk
enough.
about them doing the deed without actually thinking about them doing the deed. It's
Fair
like,
enough.
There's a subtle distinction.
I understand the distinction. Yeah.
I'm glad you do because I hardly understand the distinction some days. I'm horribly.
Well, it's you know,
Um,
it's the detail to which you think about it.
It's very much like to me. It's no different than how It's kind of funny because on playgrounds, children are making fun of people for doing one of the vilest, most obscene acts known to man.
Hand holding, yeah.
Hand holding, yes.
Oh. Why don't you throw a fucking axe at me?
So we let the children talk about hand holding, but suddenly me talking about characters banging without actually thinking about it as like as a joke is something deleterious? I don't think so, mister. Yeah. I think. So, what are your thoughts on it? Oh, going too far in either direction.
Um, I mean, from what it sounds like, your issue is more with oh boy, um, the logistics of the situation, like. If there had been, because had it been stated that the characters had, like, uh,
Toned down, yes.
with somebody else before, or had a, romantic experience with somebody else before?
No, not at all. It was literally they had a whole trauma thing going about the fact that they were literally child soldiers who were at war for more than half their lives.
If there had been mention of that, would you have had an issue with them being experienced?
I think it would call into question a lot of things, like the ethics of the situation. But in that case, I'm kind of just like, if I had to give a preference one way or the other, all relationships would be cuddling and conversation, and then a stork delivers a baby one day. If I had my way.
I'm not even necessarily talking about that stuff. I'm like trying to get to the root of why this particular example bothered you.
It bothered me because of the underlying assumption that they're the main character, or they're, of course, their experience, because everyone is.
Also, is this textual or is this comments?
Comments. And
Right.
I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like the textually. To me, it reads like they're both having their first experience, which is fine by me. But the comments, it's more the attitude surrounding it, and the fact that some authors lean into that attitude. Like another example of this, which is less egregious, but it's similar energy, is that there's a series in which a malnourished 15-year-old boy is isekai'd turned into an ant, the monster isekai genre.
Yeah.
Like dies and turns into an ant. In the webtoon and the adaptation, his human form is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, with six-pack abs. An adult.
Great.
And specifically in the text, and as per the textually, he was a 15-year-old boy who literally starved to death. That was his cause of death.
Yeah.
So that bothers me, and that's like depressingly common.
Why do you keep reading this kind of stuff?
Because as I said, tropes are tools, and some of them are fun, enjoyable stories.
I mean, I can't necessarily, throw stones from my from my house built from fan fiction, but yeah.
Yes, I was gonna say, I read trashy web novels the same way you read trashy fan fiction. We are the same.
I wouldn't necessarily say trashy fan fiction. Tropey and derivative fan fiction, yes. Trashy, less so.
Admit, there's an element of trash to it.
I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier with sociopathic protagonists, there was one fan fiction that I kept seeing pop up on the fucking searches. That was like, what if MHA except Deku wasn't a whiny crybaby protagonist? And I'm just like, no, go fuck yourself.
I think I saw that actually.
Go fuck
Or
yourself.
actually, you know what? I'm pretty sure that's an entire subgenre.
Oh, it almost certainly is. It almost certainly is.
I'm sure because I think I've seen an example of that, and I'm pretty sure is different from the example you've seen because it was on Royal Road, not on AO3.
There's a chance that it was posted on multiple platforms, but yes. Speaking of fan fiction, there's one that got updated recently that I think you'd actually really fucking like.
Give me the elevator pitch.
MHA, but cosmic horror.
It depends on where it goes with the cosmic horror.
It is.
I like the
It is unfinished
sort of
as of yet.
I like the Lovecraft light sort of cheery. Oh yay, we're cosmic horrors, but also
No. It's there is definitely a comedic tone to it.
okay. That's good.
No. This is like Izuku just introducing 1A to this fucking world and like traumatizing them with a smile on his face. And Shinso is his beleaguered like fucking assistant.
/ lover.
Not sure.
You know how I feel about reading unfinished things that may never be finished.
Yeah,
Like,
I know,
definitely
which is
seems
why
like-
I haven't like. Oh no, it is finished. Shit, it is finished.
Oh,
I forgot
okay,
about
well,
that. I will
yeah,
send
well,
you the link to it.
yes.
What I will say, the two things that I will say, it is present tense because apparently that's just what fucking fan fiction does now.
Well, to be fair, the Ant series I read, the Ant series is very Climb-esque, if that gives you a hint of what it's like. Very focused on the colony.
Hmm.
'Cause it's an ant colony.
But also, Izuku and Bakugo do have a friendship. If nothing else, give the first chapter a read because I think it was.
I will.
I think it may have actually been intended as like a one shot that then it was like, hey, this is actually pretty fun to write, and people like it. So yeah, fuck it, let's keep this going, sort of thing. I think I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's been a while. Honestly, I'd completely forgotten about it until it suddenly fucking got updated and finished like a month ago.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, it had been like 2 years since last update.
That will also happen.
Mm-hmm. But yes, it is definitely now finished.
Like a story I was reading, recently got new chapters after 2.5 years to 3 years without any updates.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, this is Ruby Walden.
there is a certain amount of joy I get when that happens. Of, oh yeah, I remember this one. This one was fun.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, it's why I stopped reading fan fiction because I was like, I wanted the fun to like be present.
I mean, to be fair, I'd
Like a regular.
I'd obviously still read it, but I don't often like go out searching for new stuff now. It's just stuff that I've read before that I know is already finished.
That's kind of how you gotta do it nowadays.
I just don't have the time anymore, and the energy and the motivation.
Yeah, just it's
Not to
just
mention,
a general.
there's only, look, as much as I love My Hero, there's only so many times I can read the canon story with slightly different circumstances.
I was gonna say that is how it be. So
Part of the reason why when I do
yeah.
look for new stuff now, I do look for
One sec.
more. Yeah. Somebody really needs to introduce some education for these orcs. They're very dumb.
Yes, on the subject of education for the uneducated. I don't know. For me, I can't handle fanfic anymore because I think. So I've realized something. I have stories that I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes one decision from the author is all it takes for me to immediately drop it nowadays.
Yeah.
Because I have less of a tolerance now in my life for continuing to read stories just for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I realized there's a type of story I enjoy, and there's story beats that I enjoy, and then there's also types of stories and story beats that I absolutely cannot handle.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I've just dropped a lot more series in recent. But I've. Do you know what sucks about that? Is I always feel a sense of loss
Mm.
because sometimes the stories are really good.
Yeah.
I really liked where they were going until they went somewhere I didn't like anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a major thing is that I've realized that in my old age,
Of
I increasingly
what, like 26?
27, I'll have you know. Uh, Look, I'm not getting any younger. In my ancient uh, quattrocent- quartocentennial. What's the quarter of a thing? Quartennial?
Mm.
Quartcentennial? I'm a quarter of a century. I'm over a quarter of a century old. My age can be measured in centuries. Fraction of a century, yes, but still centuries. Anyway, as I've gotten older, I've basically realized I kind of just want the stories to be tailored to me, and if they're not gonna do it the way I want them to do it, I'm just gonna tailor it to myself in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have any idea how many stories I've wanted to rewrite? Or, like,
Yeah.
I understand the fic authors so much more now.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, and I expressed this to you, one of my problems with fanfiction is when they change a major thing without changing the rest of the plot, as if that, which is often the main character, which is like I said, the thing that got me the most about that one story with the spirits,
Mm-hmm.
the MHA fanfiction with spirits
Yeah.
that you gave me. The idea that you could take Deku out of the story and just give Mirio one for all and nothing would change in the main plot
Mm.
does not sit right with me.
That's fair.
That makes no sense. If you think about it for even a second, it doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
I get it.
And a lot of fanfictions are like that.
Mm-hmm.
like any fanfiction that gender swaps a character without changing any character dynamics is like, the thing is, culturally, like, anytime you gender swap Deku without gender swapping Bakugo or vice versa, dynamic changes completely. Because we live in a gendered society.
Yeah,
It's a
especially in
thing
Japan.
that- yeah, so it's a thing that whether we like it or not, it matters. It matters almost as much as not seeing your friends for 8 years until you are given a handout that makes you good enough to be hang out with them again.
Alright, I haven't finished the entire series, but I did read that final chapter. I don't get the implication that they didn't talk for 8 years.
He said they were very busy with everything and they haven't kept in touch.
They said they hadn't met up as a class.
This is one of those things where I'd need to read the raws. To see if the English softened the blow. Anyway, that aside, I'm mostly joking about that part. It's the whole.
I will admit
the
the
point and then
whole
having
the whole
it's
oh
the whole
you can't
having
you,
your cake and eating.
you can't be a hero like a pro hero without a quirk until
powers.
you get this fucking power suit thing. That's a bit bullshit, yes.
Yes. When the entire point of it was like you don't need a quirk to be a hero. Except apparently you do. Apparently without a quirk, all you're good for is being nice.
Yeah. No.
It's the same principle as the whole in Nart, you're not the chosen one. Genetics don't mean anything. Your bloodline doesn't mean anything. Except you are the chosen one. And the bloodline means everything.
Yes, except the chosen one, the culmination of two very important bloodlines with, one of the biggest bonuses you could have in this world. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was not as egregious as that, but it was. I'm glad you agree with me that was BS.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's just the way that Horikoshi was writing from the very beginning. I've understood that is a flaw in Horikoshi's viewpoint.
Like Vigilantes did it much better because it had an active vigilante / ex-hero who had no quirk.
And that's why Vigilantes is honestly kind of better.
It is better. Well, in some ways.
It has its
Worse than
issues, but overall, I genuinely think I prefer Vigilantes as a story. Again, having not finished MHA yet.
If you've read the final chapter, honestly, you don't need to finish it. You could probably guess the rest of the story that you haven't read beat for beat.
I mean, I already know the broad strokes of it, yes, because people are spoiling dicks. And let me just say, I am so grateful that it looks like fucking leak culture is at the very least dying down with the endings of My Hero and Jujutsu Kaisen.
I don't know why, what the point of leak culture is.
It's so you can act superior because you know it before the fucking people who read it officially do.
And what's funny is that you're not going to the vast majority of people who indulge in leaks don't actually read it. They're just told what is happening by the leakers because it hasn't been properly translated yet.
Yeah.
So it just that. I can understand. For example, I have made it a habit now, even though I read the scanlations of One Piece because I will not abide by
Zolo.
Listen, yes, this is genuinely something that causes me distress. I don't know why it is. I know why it is. It's because I have mental illness. But it genuinely is a source of like distress and discomfort for me, so I read the scans.
Mhm.
But I've made it a habit to read it with the rest of the chapters, or like read it on Sunday with everyone else, so that
Yeah.
I don't spoil. And that's so easy to do.
Yeah. No.
All delayed gratification. It's not that hard.
Mhm. And it's also the behavior of the leakers. Like there was at least one Jujutsu Kaisen one that was like, oh, Jujutsu Kaisen wouldn't have gotten so big if it wasn't for us leaking it. And it's like, dude, really? Have much of a
No.
fucking high opinion of yourself?
So, okay. That made sense long ago in the days before official release. Because you do have to give them that, is that in the days before official releases,
Yeah.
leakers and scanlators brought in the genre and the medium to the
No,
West.
I'm not even gonna pretend that. Absolutely not gonna pretend that. Even if
But in the modern day, when you're getting either simul releases or like releases the same week, they have no leg to stand.
no, not at all.
Yeah, so it's like
But yeah, so
maybe
yeah.
once upon a time that argument would have held water.
Mhm.
Not for a long time now, though.
So yeah, if there is, even if I wasn't, a fan of Kagurabachi, which I obviously am, it's fucking great. I would be grateful to that fandom for basically telling leakers to get the fuck out.
Got it, boss.
It's just like
Like they took a fucking unified stand, which is difficult for any fandom to do.
yeah. I don't get it.
No, and
Yeah, what
I've,
is?
I've said that I don't understand the mindset of the people who talk about fucking spoilers in public spaces, because that's the thing. That's the other thing. The Kagurabachi fandom is not, like trying to get rid of leaks completely. It's just getting rid of them in public spaces. Like they've outright said, look, talk about it in like private Discord channels. The Kagurabachi Discord, we have private channels for that. If you want to talk about these leaks, just don't do it on like
There's websites
fucking.
for that.
Don't do it on like fucking Twitter.
Yeah. Like no one cares. Or at least the people who care don't.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I can't, for the life of me, understand people who still think that they have something to do with popularizing these series.
Mm. Again, the point is these leakers we're getting so tons of people interacting with them on Twitter, saying that they read their stuff and all that sort of stuff. They got a fucking big head.
Yeah.
That's they got a bit of fame, and then when the fucking Kagurabachi fandom said, no thank you, especially considering the way some of them worded it, where it was like, like the implication was that we the fans should be like honored and privileged that these leakers have chosen our fucking series to try and ruin with their fucking leaks.
Uh, yeah. So how do you feel about the scanlation culture in general?
I'm a lot more positive on it than I was probably a few years ago. A few years ago, I was quite anti-piracy. Now I'm starting to realize that piracy is what's going to let a lot of fucking series survive in this capitalist hellscape.
Yeah, piracy, and also you have to remember the vast majority of the time when you pirate something, the money you're taking is not the money that's going into the author's pocket.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oftentimes, even if they get royalties, authors do not see a lot of the money that you are relinquishing the publishers of through piracy.
I mean, here's the thing. I'd still rather, if I have a choice, I'd rather go official, but a lot of the time there just isn't that option. And, that is a problem with, fucking the people publishing it, the people distributing it, whatever you want to, whatever side of it you want to go on. For example, I read series called Aoashi on my local High Seas app or website
Yes, of course.
because the manga just hasn't been licensed over here. Nobody's releasing it online. Or not officially online. Nobody's releasing the volumes of it translated into English. I think it's got like a German translation, but my German is as limited as my Japanese.
Yeah.
And it is a series that I deeply love. The reason I am fucking reading it is because I watched the anime of it and I wanted to continue on in that fucking journey. And it's like, well, how else am I gonna fucking do it?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if it's published outside of one of the major companies, you're not getting it without scanlators.
Well,
Or there's a lot of like really solid series that publish on Pixiv or Twitter
Mm-hmm.
that you're just not
Yeah,
going to be getting.
but there's a series
And you know, it's
or there's a series that the anime has just finished called Yatagarasu that I absolutely fell in love with. It's probably going to be up there for my anime of the year when we get to that point. But it's based on novels that aren't fucking translated. And I really fucking wish they were translated. I mean, hell, do you remember way back in the day now, fucking Run with the Wind?
Yes.
Based on a fucking novel that wasn't translated. And I would have loved to read that fucking novel. And I will, because it's actually getting translated now. As soon as I saw that it was getting a translation, I fucking put in a pre-order for that shit.
Yeah. So that's just how it goes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about End of JJK though?
I thought it was a fairly, fairly good, fairly safe ending. You know, it wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't bad
yeah,
either.
it was exactly fine.
Yeah, it was fine. That's what it was. It was fine. And I'm okay with it. I'm not gonna go, oh, there should have been a better ending. Well, part of the issue is, and I do feel like you can see a definite trend in that, Akutami really started to struggle health-wise, and he really started to realize, oh shit, the way I'm writing this in this part, I'm going to be doing this for a lot longer than I would want to do it.
He started to struggle with his health, and I think he just, like, kind of started to resent the story and the characters to a certain extent because of that. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but just the glee with which he had so some characters dismantled.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. As I said, I think there is a definite shift, and I'd have to check to be sure. But my guess would be there is a definite shift from Maki demolishing the Zenins onwards, because that is where his health problems really kicked in. Because that was after that he took what was it, like a month or two hiatus. And I think at that point you can really start to there's a definite shift to moving the plot forward rather than focusing necessarily on character stuff.
Yeah.
To the detriment of the series.
Yes, I was gonna say that was to its detriment.
Like, look, I still like JJK. I still liked what it did, but you know, I would say, yeah, it had issues. It had issues. Is what else is all I'll say.
Yeah. I very much think it's a scenario where it was a lose-lose situation for Akutami. He either got the story he wanted, like got told a better story, quite frankly, or his health continued to decline.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. 1 second.
This is why I still say fucking Shonen Jump should implement split the magazine in half. One half publishes 1 week, the other half publishes the next week, and so on and so forth in alternating weeks. That means you get fucking twice the number of series, and fucking the authors get twice the amount of time to fucking do shit in, and might not actually kill themselves just to do a fucking series. Hell, it might fucking lower, you know, that fucking bar to entry for new series if, you know.
Finish that thought, but I was gonna say, I'm having a bit of a home issue, so, and it's almost been 2 hours. Do you want to call it?
Yeah, sure. Let me just
yes.
Get to the fucking fast travel point there.
Okay. So, thank you everyone for joining us. If you were watching on Twitch, please give us a follow, and if you are watching us on as a VOD on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and leave a comment if you enjoyed the video. And thank you. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.